I'm going to turn it over to our first speaker, Bill Klages from QA Consultants. And as I mentioned, Bill is based in Los Angeles and leads business development activities for the life sciences and med tech sectors for QAC. And as a seasoned global services expert with over 25 years of client support, optimizing operational costs and quality through global service delivery. Bill's also a retired CPA, and his early career was in finance and corporate roles for Fortune 500 companies and professional services firms, including KPMG and Arthur Andersen. Bill earned his MBA at the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern, and as I mentioned, was a CPA for over 30 years. Please join me in welcoming Bill Klages.
Well, it's great to see everyone here. A lot of folks here I know for years now attending these sessions, and welcome to the new members and folks online as well. Share a little bit about our company and the acquisition, recent acquisition that we're going through, and then sort of finish it off with a segment really to share thoughts, maybe even get some of your thoughts on where we're at with technology in general and what we're expecting for 2024, and then wrap up with what I'm sort of saying is a parting gift to you all. It's a PSA around really thinking about how to protect yourself with being online and helping your family and your circle of influence protect yourself with the new threats that we're going to see. QA Consultants, again, as Steve mentioned, we're based in Toronto. We've been in business for 30 years. The headquarters in the US is in Dallas, and just recently we've opened up a hub for sales and marketing in Denver. We hired a chief revenue officer and head of marketing that are based in Denver. The differentiator for our firm is, people think of us as a software testing firm, and that we do that, but really our focus is around quality engineering. What is quality engineering? It's really more strategic. We do a lot of advisory and consulting work with CIOs and CTOs to help them bring more maturity and help them integrate quality at all levels of the software development cycle. So that's how we sort of differentiate ourselves. And I do want to mention just a few things about our new parent company, Alten Group. Again, as Stephen mentioned, French-based company. On what analyst ranking you use, it's either the second or third largest engineering services company in the world, only behind Capgemini, which is known as sort of the top company. We have 54,000 employees, and you can see on the map sort of how they're distributed, a heavy concentration in Europe. Part of the reason why we were acquired, beside the quality aspect of engineering, was to increase the presence in North America. That's currently Alten's one of their top strategies. Some of the sectors that Alten is known for is aerospace. They do a lot of work with Airbus. As a matter of fact, at any given time, Alten has about 5,000 engineers that are on site at various Airbus facilities. Other key sectors are automotive, retail, med tech and life sciences, and banking and financial services. So I just wanted to share, it is really exciting when we think about the journey of our company, which really started, our founder, Alex Rodoff, was a Russian immigrant who moved with his family to Toronto in the late 80s. And he started a company that was initially a staff aug company to provide software testing to the big four, KPMG, PwC, and those folks in Toronto. And then as the year 2000 or the millennium came along, the older folks in the room will remember the whole Y2K. So there was a big level of preparation and anxiety about Y2K. So that was a huge lift for QA consultants because everyone needed some testing work associated with that for their systems. And then in 2016 is when we expanded our business into the United States. And we have our US headquarters in Dallas, Texas. I would say in terms of cross-border expansion, it was maybe a little bit awkward for us at first in terms of, how do we do it? What cities do we approach? What sectors do we approach? And some of that, after a few years, sort of took care of itself. So we found ourselves really serving a couple sectors very well, insurance being one of them, software engineering companies in another. In 2018, QAC opened an office in Ottawa to serve our government. Our main government client is the Canadian federal government, although we do a lot of work for the province of Ontario across several of their ministries. And then also we opened a software test bay facility at the Automotive Center of Excellence, which is in Oshawa, associated with the Ontario Tech Center. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but they call it the ACE Center. It is the largest wind tunnel in North America, not owned by a major automotive OEM. And then as we've discussed here, the Alton acquisition occurred in March of this year. So really cool journey from, say, Russia to Toronto and now to Paris. So it's just really exciting for the company. I thought it would be, especially given the mix, I think, of who we have in the room. We've got some longtime members of Maple. We have some new members and perhaps maybe some folks that are contemplating joining Maple. So I thought it would be really nice to share how Maple has benefited QA consultants. When I put this together, I went through and sort of inventoried, 2023 with all of the things that we've done together collaborating with Maple. And I was sort of very surprised, like how much activity that we've done with the Maple Group and joining with some of the other communities, Denver and Toronto. And so really, this is sort of the ecosystem, the way we see it and how I discuss this internally with our group. So, starting with the chapters, that gives us a geo-reach to network in other communities. Obviously, the base here is in Southern California, and Steven and Rob and Stan have been so helpful with providing introductions to other companies, but other events and so forth. That is now extended to Denver. So we've started visiting with Rob Mancy, who is the executive director for Maple in Denver. And he's been so helpful in making introductions into the Denver market. And now that we have our sales and marketing operation there, it's just a great extension of our membership and the benefit that we have. Bernardine in Toronto was kind enough to extend an invitation for our CEO, Alex, to speak at the Toronto chapter inaugural event. So that was really exciting for us. We've worked with John in New York City, and we're hoping to work more with Jason in Vancouver in 2024. We formed business partners through the Maple organization. Ray is here from Exahive today. That was our very first partnership. These are formal business partnerships that we formed through Maple. Exahive is a cybersecurity firm. I first met with Sem, the CEO, at Huntington Beach shortly after we joined Maple. And ever since then, we've been working together very closely. We've done some co-marketing. We've done webinars together. Ray and Mike, the CTO of Exahive, we meet in Huntington Beach once a month. And that's just been a great relationship. We also formed a relationship with Art1 Translations, which is a software translation company out of Vancouver and a former Maple member. We do co-marketing, so they have a piece on our services on their website, and we reciprocate with translation services under the accessibility side of our services on our website. And then one of the new relationships that we're working with is a company called Visual Globe AI. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Mike Blakeman, the CEO of Visual Globe, might be online. So if you're there, Mike, hello. So, you know, we've already made some introductions with Visual Globe AI into one of our clients. And so that just gives you a sense of the partnerships that you can create through this network. Obviously, the networking, the lead generation opportunities. This room is a great example of that. It's so exciting that we're back to face-to-face meetings. You know, it was a little bit of a struggle there for a while during the pandemic, and you know, we missed it, right? So, but yeah, we've got so many introductions. I do a justification for the membership every year, and I go back through my calendar and through my emails, and I list out all of the introductions that Stephen and Rob and Stan and everyone at the Maple Group make for us. And then there's, you know, not only that first degree relationship, but then there's second degrees and third degrees of relationships that form. So it's just really amazing. And then I will say this, and the networking you sort of feels like the front side of what the benefit of Maple is, but the marketing angle is more than you know, worth more than the fee for membership. We get a lot of benefit out of that. So we've had the opportunity, obviously myself today, but Alex spoke at the inaugural Toronto chapter event. Bernardine was kind enough to invite us to a speaking opportunity. So one of our executives out of our Toronto office, Brett Turner, spoke at a technology-related event in Toronto. Stephen mentioned the video conversations, so we've had that opportunity over the years. Our most recent was our CEO, Alex Rodoff, did a two-part video conversation. And then the articles, so we submit you know, articles to the Momentum and the newsletter. Our most recent article was about our work with the Canadian Electrical Vehicle Consortium. It's called Project Arrow. So that was very cool. And then we've collaborated on some webinars over the years as well. And then one of the other areas that is really surprising about how much opportunity there is because we are a Canadian business trying to do more in the United States and now starting in other countries. We've had so many introductions from Maple to the various consulate offices around the U.S. We're very active working with them. We have regular cadence in terms of calls and meetings with the various offices, highlighting Dallas, Denver, San Francisco, San Diego. And those folks are just so supportive, and there's a real bond between the folks at Maple and the consulates in the United States, because it's really about serving the same premise, and that's helping Canadian businesses do more in the United States. And then a few other areas of that are, again, just wonderful surprises. We get invites. Stephen mentioned the Canadian float, but there's so many other areas where we find out about events, world trade events, economic development forums, trade shows, and just all of those things that personally here in Southern California it would be difficult for me to manage and find out about all of those events. So thanks, Stephen, and your team support for all of those things. So this next section is it's really meant to be high level, but given everything that's happened, there's just been this sea change of technology in 2023. And now that we're getting to the end of the year and we're starting to reflect on where we've been here in 2023 and where we're going in 2024, I thought I'd just highlight some of the things that I know you've heard in the press and we're anticipating. I think there is some anxiety about some of the newer technologies, especially AI, and there's some cautions, right? So we celebrate these new technologies because of everything that we benefit from them, but the question is, should we fear some of the technologies and different aspects about what impacts these technologies have on our lives and our society? Um, so not going to really dive into social media, but just a few comments on, we've sort of started to take social media for granted a little bit. Um, One of the things as I was preparing to make my comments about AI, which is my next topic, I started seeing a lot of expert sort of reviews of sort of where we've been with social media and the impacts that it's had on our society and the world. There's obviously challenges, there's goodness. I'm not going to go through all of these, but one of the things that I picked up on that I never really thought about is this whole idea about uh, we blew it when it comes to getting behind the curve and regulating the use of social media. Um, you know, Personally, I really focus in on how it's influencing um, non-digital natives like our grandparents and our elderly family members, people who really didn't grow up on that, but could be susceptible to um, potential issues, which I'll get into a little bit more with some of the things that are coming out on AI. But really, for those who have school-age children, you're already experiencing what influences and the amount of time that kids are on these platforms. AI is just going to make it worse, right? So, we all as parents come to the point in time where we have a lot of anxiety about the sex talk. Well, now this whole new generation, there's another talk that we're going to have, right? It's the tech talk with our kids. I wouldn't recommend having both of those conversations at the same time. And then we all know in social media, there's a lot of misinformation. It's been used to um, enable extremism. Um, there's fraud, and now we're starting to see a lot of research coming out about social media addiction and potential mental health issues, especially with, again, children. I think when we first started hearing that, we're like, what? But when you really think about it, think about the number of hours that kids are on social media platforms, and the stats are that I've seen. It's 97% of teens. 97% of teens. So almost every teen is on some sort of social media platform. But there is a lot of goodness, right? So um, this is the dilemma. And I'll talk more about the AI dilemma as well. But there's over 5 billion internet users now. Um, Most of them are accessing some form of social media. There's what I really like to see, especially with the climate change effects that we're seeing in terms of storms and disasters, is the amazing things that they're leveraging social media, not only to provide indicators that there could be a disaster like a hurricane, but also the after effect relief benefit of social media. So if you think about 40 years ago when we didn't have that, you can't even imagine, how you get through the whole relief process after a major storm or a disaster, right? So that's been a huge benefit. Other things, before social media, I know I didn't pay as much attention to what was going on with in my city or my town. Now I'm a part of several groups I'm in El Segundo, and so it's a very tight knit town. I hear way more than I want to about what the city leaders are doing and or not doing, and what where people's attitudes are about how the city is being run, right? And so you see that through these groups, and so you kind of just every morning when you're glancing at that over coffee, you kind of see, I have a better feeling about what's going on in my town. And then, of course, we find out about entertainment and education and things that, when for those in the room that are boomers, we had Mad Magazine in 1975. We had ABC, NBC, and CBS, and nothing else. So we got all of our information and messaging through a very limited channel of information. To AI, and I thought it'd be fun to test Chat GPT and see what it had to say about Maple. And it was really cool. So, Maple is a 5.0 perfect rating on Facebook. I would have never known that, but that's something that if I'm talking to somebody about Maple, I'm going to say people love it, right? And then as Stephen mentioned, David Cohen, his comments came up through that as well. So pretty cool stuff. ChatGPT exploded, right, this year. 100 million users in 2 months. That's just blows your mind. If by comparison, some of the other social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter and some of those, it took them years to get to 100 million users. So, wow, what are we going to see in 2024? They're coming out with newer versions. They're coming out with versions that provide imaging. Most of the stuff is already out in some form. Voice simulation. So there's a lot, right? Here's some recent headlines. So all of us here in Southern California are familiar with the actors and writers strike, and some of the elements involved in those contract demands and negotiations had to do with AI, right? Protecting your image as an actor and how that's used, or protecting or preventing AI to overcome, writing content, right? So we're quite familiar with that. Just last week, many of you probably heard the story about Sports Illustrated. Just incredible. Not only was the article these articles fully written by AI, but they came up with fake authors, and they had AI generate their headshot portraits, and they had AI generate their bios. So the whole thing was AI generated. They were busted for that, and of course they had to take them down. So, it makes you wonder how much is already out there that's been completely generated by AI, but they haven't been caught. Pretty scary. And then this example was pretty interesting down in Brazil. So this town was working on some legislation. I guess one of the town council folks was ahead of the curve on using ChatGPT. So they said, hey, I'll write the legislation. They wrote it completely with a generative AI. Submitted it to the council. They voted on it. It passed. Nobody knew it was AI until later found out, and lots of fallout due to that. So just amazing. Other anecdotes that I thought were fascinating, they're using AI to translate animal communication. So one example I saw was with fruit bats, which apparently have very complex communication with the sounds and so forth that they make. And so they're taking data and listening to sounds and translating that. I think there were like 15,000 different communication things that these bats do. And so they're categorizing all of that, and many other types of animals as well. Pretty cool. Google, and it's likely that this is in California, is using phones to pick up vibrations as an early indicator of earthquakes. You don't know that. I actually have I'm an Android user, so I didn't know that Google was likely using my phone. It's amazing that our phones, I guess, are so sensitive that they can sort of pick that up. So if they get enough phones in an area, let's say in Irvine, that start vibrating at a certain level, it's an indicator that potentially there's an earthquake coming. Pretty cool stuff. You know, there's been a lot in the press about the impact on jobs, right? We've heard this in most of the waves as we've come up through automation and using technology for automation. And I would suggest, and just hearing different experts and folks who are analyzing this, that perhaps it's not a job elimination technology as everybody is fearing that it will be, but it's going to be transformative. So there will be job classes that will be changed in terms of you know, how AI impacts, or maybe there will be jobs. Telemarketers is one. They say there will be jobs that will be completely eliminated because of the voice capability and the ability. So instead of a chat box, which we're all familiar with using online, there's going to be voice bots that are equally as good. So when you pick up that phone, you're going to hear a voice that sounds so real, but it's a voice bot, right? So the benefits of AI, you know, again, you're going to hear most of the negatives and the fear and the anxiety in the press, but there's some amazing benefits that we're going to get from AI, right? How can we use AI? Anything that we're trying to analyze large banks of data is where AI is really going to be helpful, right? So they're using it in the rainforest to, you know, track data and monitor things to help you know, assess damage to the rainforest and how to manage that. Healthcare, which depends on mass amounts of data for not only populations, but for us as individuals, in terms of how do you use it to make quicker and more precise diagnosis of health issues. So pretty cool stuff there. But there is, you know, there's a dilemma. So everyone says we blew it with social media. We're so far behind. Our 19th century laws just aren't set up to handle whether it's privacy or misinformation, or how our children are using these platforms. So this is going to be hopefully we've learned some lessons and we'll get ahead of the curve. This picture here, the woman with the stop sign, this is the first stop sign in the United States in 1915 in Detroit. Automobiles had been on the road since the 1890s. We always think about Henry Ford as putting first, you know, mass-produced automobiles onto the road, but there were automobiles on the road as early as the 1890s. So it took 20 to 25 years to start seeing stop signs on the roads, right? Wow. I don't think we have 25 years to wait to regulate the uses of AI or the influences of social media. So this is a huge challenge, and this is a huge dilemma for how we manage these technologies. One of the messages that I hope to leave with you guys is that with these technologies comes great responsibility. And it's not just responsibility for the tech companies that are building these platforms. Unfortunately, it's responsibility from each of us, right? So we are going to have to be better, especially with what we're going to see with AI, in managing our circle of influence, how we use these platforms, how we protect ourselves from threats, and our families, our kids, our parents, grandparents, our employers. 85 to 90% of security breaches, I'll speak about in a moment, are caused by employee mistakes. 50% of AI researchers, so these are the experts, believe that there's a greater than 10% chance that humans will go extinct because of AI. I think I saw that on a podcast, and I just stopped for a minute and I just was thinking about that. Like, wow. Voice and imaging AI is going to lend to some real issues. And one of the things they talked about was the voice simulation that is already that is starting. You'll see week to week that it's going to be available even to us to use it. So within seconds, these voice AIs can listen to a voice and learn to speak in that voice. It's already available. Think about strangers and bad actors that get a hold of that technology and what they're able to do with it, right? You go onto a social media platform, some 14-year-old has a bunch of videos on there with them talking to their friends. They apply the AI voice generator on, pick up that voice, learn that voice, and they use it in really bad ways. They can call that child's grandparent using that voice and say, "Hey, grandma, this is Mary. I forgot the garage code." Or, "I'm at the principal's office. I can't get a hold of my mom. They need your social security number." This is already there. Really scary stuff. So this is sort of my wrap up. I just wanted to make a few comments about what we're going to expect in 2024 as it relates to cybersecurity threats. I'm not the expert. We do application security in my firm, but I work a lot, again, with the Exit High folks and with others. So we're talking about this stuff almost daily in our firm. So with AI, they're already starting to use these generative AI platforms to do bad things, right? So lately, and just yesterday, right? Here's the holiday season. We're all on Amazon buying 10 packages a week, and we lose track of it. We wake up one morning, get on with our coffee, open our email, and there's an email from FedEx saying, "Hey, your shipment's on our way, but we need some more information. Click this button." Logo looks real. Everything looks real. Personally, because I work for an IT firm, we're very security conscious. I got a heightened awareness for that stuff, but most of the population doesn't. How easy is it for you to get caught in that trap, right? Seen a lot of that lately. I don't know about you folks. Banks, your government, local governments. One of my cautions and sort of my parting gift and PSA for you is to be extra diligent. Don't take this stuff for granted. Really pay attention. One of the things, first thing you do when you get any kind of email that you aren't expecting, not familiar, look at the sender's address, look at the domain. That's the first tip off. 95% of the time, it's going to be some really weird bunch of letters, bunch of characters in the domain of the address, and that tips you off that delete that thing, right? If you're at work and you get a suspicious email, never, first of all, unless an email at work is somebody you absolutely know, don't ever click a link. Take a screenshot of it, send it to your IT folks, because if you got that email, chances are one of your colleagues got it, right? As I mentioned, 85 to 90% of company breaches are caused by emails just like that, where you're clicking on a button. So for 2024, here's what I'm recommending, and I have actually started doing it. I hate doing this, but we hit hundreds of sites. We've got accounts in our financial, our health. We all probably have 100 or more passwords each. set aside a couple hours this holiday, change all your passwords, do different things with your passwords, use a lot of special characters, stay away from familiar words that can be found on your social media platforms, because these AI generators are going to get very good at figuring out people's. They're going to compile passwords faster than ever, and they're going to figure out simple passwords. So I recommend you do that. Be skeptical about any messages or emails that you get, and make sure you have VPN set up on your home networks. So I really appreciate the opportunity to do this today, Stephen, and really great having you all here. I wanted to just, do I have any time for questions? Okay, so I just open up to the floor. Does anybody have any thoughts or comments around what we're seeing with technology or AI, or any really cool or anxious things that you've seen lately? Everybody is talking about AI. Just in the last 6 months, we've started infusing AI into our testing practices. So we have a lab in Toronto. We call it the MTech lab. And so we've now assigned a whole team of people to look at ways that we can incorporate AI into our testing. And there's a demand for that now. All of our clients are saying, what can you do with AI? They also feel like they're behind, and that they should be doing more, or that AI can solve all their quality or testing. There's sort of an in-between, right? AI, there's nothing out there today that AI can be used to completely test software, but you can take advantage of AI in certain parts of the software development process to speed things up, or to analyze code for better detection of, was that code written properly? AI now can write software code. I just saw something on TV last night where AI can write a full application in real time. Depends on how you manage your passwords. Some people still do it manually. Some people still have a spreadsheet with their passwords on there. Password management applications, some people don't trust them because they don't know where it's stored. They don't know how they can get to it. So they want to have some sort of name that they can remember in their password. You can't do that anymore. If you have 100 passwords, you can't make all your passwords the same. That's just you're gonna get it. So Google will generate passwords that typically have a lot of characters and stuff that there's just no way you're ever gonna remember it. So it just really depends on how good you are at using Google's password management or any other password management application. If you're totally dependent on that, then you're probably okay with using those Google generated passwords. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bill.